The sharp smell of antiseptic filled the air. The heart monitor beeped steadily, beep, 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 each sound piercing her ears like a needle. Lois opened her eyes. Her body felt unbearably heavy. Her head spun, and her throat was dry as if she'd swallowed sand. A needle dug deep into her arm, burning her skin. She tried to move, but voices whispered just outside the door. A man's voice familiar, warm once, but now cold and metallic. When she wakes up, have her sign the papers. She's weak, it'll be quick. Tell her it's just for discharge. Lois held her breath. Her heart pounded hard, each beat like it might tear her chest open. It was Aaron, her son. Then came another voice, a woman's, smooth, detached, professional. And if she gets suspicious? Just say it's protocol. We just need her signature. After that, we'll move her to Silver Haven. She's old. No one will ever notice. Silver Haven. The name stabbed into her mind. She knew that place, a distant nursing home, where the forgotten were left behind. Lois fought to steady her breathing. She couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Her own son was planning to send her away. The air in the room was so heavy it felt like someone was strangling her. Lois lay still, her heart pounding wildly. Every word from outside pierced her chest like a blade, cutting deeper each time. That house. Aaron's voice dropped low, but it still carried clearly through the door. If she signs, the house will be mine. I just need a little capital to start my business. I understand, Victoria replied softly, her voice calm and clinical, like she was reading a prescription. I'll make her believe it's the discharge form. Leave it to me. Lois wanted to sit up, to scream. What are you saying, Aaron? But her throat was dry and burning, and even the smallest movement made the IV sting sharply. She bit her lip hard, desperate not to make a sound. The door clicked open. Victoria's heels tapped against the floor, her cold perfume drifting through the air. Her hand touched Lois's wrist, cold and damp with sweat. Her pulse is weak, but she'll wake up soon. Good, Aaron said, his tone detached. When she does, get her to sign right away. Don't let her talk to anyone, especially the lawyer. Lois squeezed her eyes shut, pretending to be unconscious. The door closed again, and their footsteps faded down the hall. A single tear slid down her cheek, burning hot. She had thought she could endure anything, poverty, sickness, loneliness, but never this, never betrayal. Silence. Only the steady beeping of the heart monitor beep, 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 like it was counting the rhythm of her pain. Lois cracked her eyes open. A harsh white light flooded in. The ceiling above her was cold and blank smooth as the sheet of paper they were about to make her sign. Another tear slipped onto the pillow. In her mind, a memory flickered Aaron as a little boy, sitting on her lap, holding a piece of old bread, smiling bright as sunlight. She had cut the loaf in half, giving him the better piece. And now, that same boy was ready to cut half her life away for business capital. She wanted to laugh, but her throat closed up with bitterness. The white room felt larger, colder. Each machine's beep, each faint breeze from the air vent pricked at her skin, reminding her she was still alive and she had to stay alert. They couldn't know she'd heard them. She couldn't sign. She couldn't afford to be weak. Lois drew in a deep breath, shut her eyes, and clenched her free hand, the same hand that once lifted her son every time he fell. Now it trembled, but it trembled with fury. "My son," she whispered, voice rough and broken amid the hum of machines. "If you want to get rid of me, then you'll see I'm not dead yet." Out in the hallway, a medical cart rattled by. A cold gust swept the curtain aside. Lois stared up at the white ceiling, her eyes darkening deep and burning. She knew. From this moment on, the storm inside her had begun. The day Aaron was born, rain poured down over Houston. In the hospital hallway, Lois sat against the wall, cradling the tiny, red-faced baby in her arms, listening to thunder roll outside the window. A passing nurse smiled and said, "He's a lucky boy. Rain's a good omen." Lois smiled back, even though her body still trembled from labor. She had thought that with this child, everything would change. Her husband, John, had left when she was 7 months pregnant. "I don't want to be tied down," he'd said before driving away in his old truck and never coming back. From then on, Lois was both mother and father. She worked night shifts as a nurse at a small suburban hospital, took on laundry and floor cleaning jobs just to afford baby formula. Every morning when she came home, bone-tired, she'd still lean down to kiss her sleeping son's forehead. The little house had only 2 people, but it was filled with laughter and the smell of morning coffee. Aaron grew up in that worn-out kitchen, surrounded by burnt rice pots and the soft hum of soul music Lois always played. Each time she went to work, she slipped a few spare bills into a glass jar on the cabinet. "This is your college fund," she'd say. And Aaron, flashing his toothless grin, would reply, "I'll study hard, Mom, so you don't have to worry." Every night after he fell asleep, Lois would sit and mend clothes, listening to the chirping outside the window and thinking, "As long as my boy grows up right, no amount of hardship will ever matter." The years Aaron was in high school were the years Lois survived on nothing but coffee and faith. At 40, the African-American nurse, her hair already streaked with gray, still walked 3 kilometers every morning to the hospital. By day, she handled administrative work. By night, she took on private caregiving jobs, elderly patients, disabled ones, anyone who needed help and could pay. Aaron's tuition wasn't cheap. He went to a private school where kids wore designer sneakers and talked about vacations in Florida. Lois couldn't bear to let her son feel lesser than anyone. She cut back on everything: patched old clothes, glued the soles of worn shoes, even skipped breakfast just to save enough for his new uniform. Every night, Aaron studied in his small room while Lois sat in the kitchen, poring over her expense notebook. The red ink spread across the page like bruises, but she still smiled. "Just a few more years," she whispered. "I can make it." Once Aaron's teacher called, inviting parents to an award ceremony. Aaron had won first place in math for his grade. Lois arrived late, still in her wrinkled nurse uniform, the smell of disinfectant clinging to her. But when she saw her son step onto the stage to receive his certificate, her eyes stung. In that moment, all her exhaustion dissolved. After the ceremony, Aaron tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, I was embarrassed. Everyone was staring at you." The words were soft, but they cut deep. Lois froze for a second, then forced a smile. "Yeah, I forgot to change. Next time, I'll look nicer." That night, back home, she sat staring at the certificate hanging on the wall. She smiled, but her chest tightened. She understood. Her son was growing up, and his world was beginning to drift away from her embrace. The day Aaron received his college acceptance letter, Lois cried like rain, not from sadness, but from joy, from pride, from the feeling that all those endless, back-breaking years had finally meant something. The University of Houston, economics major. She held the letter in trembling hands, reading each line slowly, tears splashing onto the black print like drops of ink. "I told you, baby, you could do it," she said, her voice breaking as she pulled him into a hug. Aaron smiled the shy, uncertain smile of an 18-year-old. "Take care of yourself while I'm gone, okay? I'll come visit you all the time." All the time. How easily those words blew away with the wind. Lois sold the little house they'd lived in for years. She told everyone, "I just want to be closer to the hospital. It's easier for work." But in truth, it was the only way to afford his first year's tuition. Her new apartment was half the size of the old one, in a run-down neighborhood by the train tracks. Every time a train passed, the walls trembled as if they might crack. At night, Lois stayed up late, listening to the fading sound of train horns, her eyes fixed on the photo of her and Aaron from his high school graduation. She whispered to herself, It's okay. As long as he's successful, I'll be at peace. For the first couple of years, Aaron still called his voice bright, full of stories about classes, friends, and small projects. But slowly, the calls came less often. They were replaced by short, hurried texts. "Busy, Mom. Don't worry." "I'm fine. Can't talk now." Each time her phone rang, her heart leapt hopeful, only to fall again. Lois would sit by the window, the dim light tracing her gaunt face, her calloused hands clutching the old phone, waiting. And in the stillness of night, the train would howl in the distance. She'd whisper softly to herself, "As long as you're living well, I can live with the loneliness." That winter was unusually cold. Houston rarely saw snow, but that morning, tiny white flakes drifted past the hospital window where Lois was working her night shift. On her desk sat a lunchbox cold beef stew she'd cooked the night before, half of which she'd packed for Aaron to take to school. She picked up her phone. The screen lit up with a message from her son. "Mom, the food's great. Thanks." Just 6 words, but they made her eyes sting. She laughed softly to herself, a hoarse little laugh after too many sleepless nights. A coworker once asked, "Why don't you find someone new? Your son's grown now." Lois just shook her head. "I have Aaron. He's my whole world." Back then, no matter how tired she was, she still found joy in the smallest things, mending the cuff of his sleeve, folding his blanket neatly, cooking the sweet soup he loved. She kept her habit of leaving notes on the refrigerator. "Don't skip breakfast. Love you, Mom." Many nights, coming home late, she'd find him asleep at his desk, head resting on his open notebook, the lamp still glowing. She'd quietly switch off the light, pull a blanket over his shoulders, and stand there watching his face, older now, yet still the same little boy who once clung to her in the rain. In that biting winter cold, it was that image, and that image alone, that warmed Lois's heart, because to her, every crack life had ever left could still be mended, as long as her son was near. When Lois turned 52, the doctor told her she had high blood pressure and needed rest. She laughed it off. "If I rest, who's going to pay the rent?" She hid the medical report in a drawer, saying nothing to Aaron. He was busy with his internship at a finance firm, always rushed when he called, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "Mom, this is an important time for me. Don't worry about anything. I'll take care of you later." "Sure, sweetheart," Lois answered, her tone gentle as always. But every night she sat alone in the corner of her kitchen, checking her blood pressure, watching the numbers climb higher and higher, afraid even to breathe too hard. On the table sat the ceramic mug Aaron had given her, his first year of college, its handle chipped now. She still used it, cleaned it carefully, and placed it neatly on the shelf like something precious. One day, she collapsed while caring for a patient. Her coworkers panicked and rushed her to the ER, but Lois had only one question. "Where's my phone? I need to call my son." The young nurse looked at her with sympathy. "Ma'am, it's past midnight. You can call him in the morning." Lois nodded. But when she woke up in the stark white hospital room, her phone was still silent. No messages, no missed calls. Her trembling fingers brushed the screen. The wallpaper was still the photo of her and Aaron at the park. He was 16 then, smiling bright, one arm around her shoulders. Lois gazed at it for a long while, her eyes softening. "He must really be busy," she whispered, placing the phone on her chest before closing her eyes. At that age, she had grown used to silence. Only the soft drip of the IV and the steady beat of her heart reminded her, no matter how tired, no matter how lonely, a mother's love never learns how to give up. When Aaron came home after 3 years of working away, Lois spent an entire week preparing. She bought the baked treats he'd loved as a child, washed the old curtains, and scrubbed every corner of the house until it smelled faintly of cinnamon. That morning, she woke up at 5, simmered fish stew, and made his favorite bean soup, the one he used to say, "tastes just like a restaurant's." The door opened. Aaron stepped in taller, thinner, dressed neatly in a suit, a trace of unfamiliar cologne lingering in the air. Lois's face lit up as she rushed to hug him, but he pulled back slightly, smiling awkwardly. "Mom, don't my shirt'll wrinkle." She froze, just for a moment, then she smiled again, hiding the flicker of hurt inside. "Right, I forgot. You're a grown man now." At dinner, Aaron looked at his phone more than at her. Lois ladled more soup into his bowl and asked, "Work going well, honey?" "Yeah. I'm thinking about buying a place, but prices are crazy." "Keep at it," she said warmly. "Once you have your own home, you'll feel settled." Aaron hesitated, glancing up. "Mom, have you ever thought about selling this apartment? I mean, you don't really need all this space. You could rent a smaller place near the hospital." The ladle in Lois's hand stopped midair. The room fell completely silent. "I was just asking, that's all. Don't take it the wrong way," Aaron added quickly, scratching his head with an uneasy smile. Lois smiled too, though her lips trembled slightly. She nodded and changed the subject. After dinner, Aaron left in a hurry. "Meeting an old friend," he said. When the door closed, silence filled the house. On the table, the plate of baked pastries remained untouched. Lois sat down, smoothed the wrinkles on the tablecloth, and let out a quiet sigh. Inside her, a strange feeling began to rise, as if something unseen, something cold, had quietly slipped between them without her noticing when. After that day, Lois tried everything she could to bring her son closer again. She called more often, her tone always gentle, never demanding, always ending with the same line. "I just wanted to hear your voice, sweetheart." At first, Aaron still answered. But as time went on, her calls went unanswered, only the busy tone filling the silence. Once she finally reached him, but the sound of loud music buzzed in the background. His voice came through, rushed and impatient. "Mom, I'm in a meeting, okay? Please stop calling so much. I'm fine." Click. The call ended. The long beep, beep, echoed in Lois's ears. That night, she rummaged through the closet and found the old photo box. Pictures of the two of them at the park, his first day of school, Aaron's first birthday, all neatly wrapped in yellowing plastic. She spread them out across the table, wiping the dust from each one. Her eyes softened, but the corners of her mouth trembled, as if she were trying to swallow a stone lodged in her throat. On Sunday, Lois went to the market early, bought some vegetables and meat, cooked several meals, and packed them neatly into containers for the freezer. She planned to take them to Aaron's office the next day, so he can eat something healthy, she thought. But when she arrived, the security guard stopped her. "Ma'am, who are you here for?" "I'm Aaron's mother." The guard looked her up and down, then said, "He's on a business trip. Next time you should probably call first." Lois nodded, stepping back into the scorching sunlight. The midday heat shimmered off the pavement as she sat down on a nearby bench, clutching the lunchbox in her hands. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "He must really be busy. My boy's doing so well." Her words drifted away with the windlight and small, but her eyes glistened red. To passers-by, she was just a tiny, aging black woman sitting alone under the burning Houston sun. No one could see that inside her chest. A corner of love was quietly peeling away, piece by piece. One damp afternoon, while Lois was at work, her phone rang. Aaron's voice came through hoarse, cool, and distant. "Mom, I know someone who works at your hospital. Her name's Victoria. If you ever need anything, just ask her, okay? Stop pushing yourself so hard." Lois hesitated for a moment. "Victoria, who is she, honey?" "She's in administration. We know each other. She's really capable. She'll help make your workload easier." Lois nodded, quietly pleased. Her son still remembered her. Still cared. The next day, Victoria showed up. A young woman, fair skin, blonde hair, neatly pressed uniform, and a perfectly practiced smile. "Hello, Mrs. Lois," she said politely. "Aaron asked me to help reduce your heavier shifts. Her tone was soft, but her eyes were cold hard, like the glossy tiles under their feet. Lois smiled warmly and thanked her again and again. Inside, she felt a small bloom of comfort. At least Aaron was thinking of her. But from that day on, things began to change. Victoria took a curious interest in Lois's paperwork, especially her personal documents. "So you own your own place, right? Aaron said you live alone?" Her questions floated lightly, casual on the surface, but they made Lois uneasy. She chuckled, brushing them off. "Oh, it's nothing much, just a small house." That night, she opened her wardrobe, took out the property deed, and locked it deep in the bottom drawer. Her hands trembled for reasons she couldn't name. Something in her gut whispered vague, cold, like a draft slipping through a crack in the door. On the table, her phone lit up with a new message from Aaron. "I'll come visit soon. Please rest and don't work too hard." Lois read it over and over, a faint smile tugging at her lips. But beneath that smile stirred a strange unease, the kind that made her heart beat just a little faster, her breath a little shorter. Because somehow, the same love that had kept her alive all these years was now making her afraid, as if somewhere in the dark, someone was quietly drawing the last bit of warmth from her heart. After Victoria's arrival, Lois's life began to change quietly, not in any obvious way, but something felt off. Like the world had tilted just a little. Her job suddenly became easier. The night shifts were gone, yet her pay stayed the same. People at work started giving her strange looks, part sympathy, part caution. "I heard your son works for a big investment firm, right? Wow, must be nice. I bet he takes good care of you." Lois just smiled and said nothing, but inside, confusion stirred. Aaron had never once told her he was someone important. One weekend afternoon, while tidying up the medicine cabinet, Lois found a plain envelope tucked in the drawer of her desk. On the front, written neatly in pen, "Medical records, confidential." Inside, however, there were no test results, only a photocopy of her house deed and an unsigned form titled "Consent for Transfer of Care, Legal Guardian, Aaron Cole." Lois froze. Sweat prickled down her back, her whole body cold. Who had put this here? And why were documents about her house mixed in with medical files? Just then, Victoria walked in. "Oh, you're still here. I thought you'd gone home already." Her gaze flicked across the desk quick, almost casual, but Lois saw it. A flicker of something surprise, maybe guilt. "I was just cleaning up a bit," Lois said, her voice trembling slightly as she slid the envelope into the pocket of her white coat. Victoria smiled, soft but chilling. "You really should rest more, Mrs. Lois. Don't worry about those papers. I'll take care of everything." As she turned and left, Lois stood frozen in place. Her hand clutched the pocket tight, heart pounding hard against her ribs. From that moment on, she began to notice everything, every footstep in the hallway, every whispered word around her, all carrying the faint shadow of a plan quietly closing in. From that day on, Lois grew wary. Every time Victoria entered the room, she felt it, that prickling at the back of her neck, as if someone were standing behind her, watching every breath she took. The young nurse still smiled, still spoke softly and politely, but in her eyes, there was something unreal, something that didn't match the warmth in her voice. One morning, Lois opened the drawer by her bed. Her phone was gone. She searched everywhere, under the blanket, in her pockets, even in the bottom drawer. Nothing. "Has anyone seen my phone?" she asked the nurse on duty. "No, ma'am. You probably just misplaced it." But Lois remembered clearly just last night, before falling asleep, she had looked at Aaron's picture. He was smiling by the beach, wind tossing his hair. She had touched the screen gently and whispered, "My boy." And now it was gone. That afternoon, Victoria walked in, cheerful as ever. "Mrs. Lois, I heard you lost your phone. I already spoke to your son. He said he'll send you a new one." "Aaron called you?" Lois asked softly, surprised. Yes, Victoria replied smoothly. He asked me to make sure you're well taken care of. Lois smiled faintly, but a chill rippled through her chest. Aaron hadn't called her in 3 weeks. How could he have called Victoria? Why hadn't she heard from him herself? That night, sleep wouldn't come. Shadows of people passing in the hallway flickered through the crack beneath her door like shifting streaks of black. Every footstep, every faint sound made her flinch. Near midnight, she heard her door creak open, slow, deliberate. The dim hallway light spilled in. Victoria's silhouette appeared for just a moment. She glanced around, then quietly pulled a stack of files from the drawer beside Lois's bed, the very place Lois kept her personal documents. Lois's heart clenched tight. She forced herself to breathe evenly, eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. Under the blanket, her hand balled into a trembling fist. The next morning, the folder was gone. Victoria entered as usual, her professional smile perfectly intact, carrying a glass of orange juice as if nothing had happened. But Lois knew. From that moment on, she could never ever trust that smile again. 3 days later, Lois took the morning off. She told Victoria she had a heart scan scheduled, but in truth, she was heading to the hospital's records department. The hallway was silent, lit by flickering neon lights. Her footsteps echoed softly as her heart pounded out of rhythm. The records room was at the end of the corridor. The door was locked, but only loosely. She pushed gently. Creak! The door gave way, and a rush of stale paper and disinfectant filled the air. In the dim light, Lois searched the shelves for her name. Her file sat neatly in place, thicker than usual. She opened it. And the first thing she saw wasn't a medical report. It was a photocopy of a contract. Property power of attorney. Authorized representative, Aaron Cole. Below it was a signature line with her name already signed. The handwriting was hers, slightly shaky, uneven like it had been forged from an exhausted hand. Lois's fingers trembled violently. She flipped to the next page. Transfer request, Silver Haven Senior Center. Transfer date, next week. She staggered back, her spine hitting the metal cabinet. The air around her froze solid. Every word, every smile, every glance from Victoria came crashing together into one horrifying realization. When she wakes up, get her to sign. Just need the signature, then we'll transfer her out. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Panicking, Lois stuffed the papers into her coat pocket, slipped out the door, and hurried toward the emergency stairwell. In the shadowy corner, she gasped for breath, sweat soaking through her blouse. She knew now she'd uncovered something she was never meant to see. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A new message from Aaron. Mom, don't worry. Victoria will take care of everything for you. Lois's vision blurred. She bit her lip hard, her chest heaving, her heartbeat pounding like a drum of dread. For the first time in her life, she didn't know if the son she had given everything for was still her son at all. That night, it rained. The storm lashed against the hospital window, cold and merciless. Lois lay in bed, pretending to sleep. The hallway light slipped through the crack beneath her door, painting flickering ghostly shapes across the wall. The door creaked open. Victoria's whisper cut through the sound of rain. Are you sure about this? She's weak, but if she starts asking questions, it'll be trouble. Do exactly what I said. Aaron's voice replied, clear, dry, cold. Tomorrow she'll sign. I'll tell her it's the discharge form. Once she does, call the transport. When she's gone, the house is mine. Lois stopped breathing. Something shattered inside her. She heard papers rustling, a pen clicking. That house is in a prime location, Aaron continued. I've already got a buyer. Once it's sold, I'll give you your share 20% like we agreed. Don't worry, Victoria said evenly, her voice as flat and cold as glass. She trusts me completely. I'll tell her it's just discharge paperwork. Outside, thunder cracked the sky open. Lois trembled, clutching the edge of her blanket. Tears streamed down her face, hot, silent. Her son, the boy she had sold their old house for, worked herself sick to feed and educate, was selling her. Pain spread through her chest like fire, stealing her breath. She wanted to rise, to scream, to tear that damned paper apart. But her body wouldn't move. Only the tears flowed, and her heartbeat thundered like it was trying to break free from her ribs. "Don't worry," Aaron said calmly. "She's too weak. She won't remember anything. I'll handle it." Lois bit her lip until she tasted blood, sharp, metallic, bitter. And in the hollow silence that followed, one thought rang through her mind, clear as a bell and heavier than death itself. My son is already dead to me. The next morning, pale sunlight filtered weakly through the white curtain. Lois opened her eyes, her throat dry as sand. Her son's voice still echoed in her head. Just sign it, then transfer her out. She couldn't stay still. She had to do something. Lois pulled the IV from her arm. The thin needle tore her skin, blood staining the bedsheet. She didn't feel the pain, only the desperate urge to get out, before the papers were signed, before her own name was erased from her life. She threw on her coat and shuffled into the hallway. Each step sent a wave of dizziness through her. Each breath felt like it was splitting her chest open. At the nurse's desk, she rasped out, barely above a whisper, "Can I use the phone? Please, I need to call my lawyer." "You should rest, ma'am," the young nurse said gently. "Your paperwork's already being handled by Miss Victoria." Victoria. The name made every hair on Lois's body stand on end. She turned, trying to make her way toward the elevator. But before she could reach the corner, a voice drifted from behind her. "Mrs. Lois, where are you going?" Victoria. That smile, those eyes still calm, still polite, but under the harsh white light, they looked cold, hollow, almost inhuman. I just need some air," Lois stammered. "I'm afraid that's not possible," Victoria said softly, stepping closer. "You're still unwell. Aaron asked me to watch over you carefully. He's very worried." Very worried. Those two words made Lois's throat tighten. If Aaron truly worried, why had he signed the papers to send her away? Victoria reached out, her hand firm on Lois's arm. "Come on, let's get you back to bed. You need your strength. Tomorrow we'll finish all the paperwork, and then you can rest somewhere better." Her voice was soothing, almost tender, but every word cut through Lois's skin like a blade, slicing cold and deep. Lois shook her head weakly. "I don't want to go anywhere." Victoria's smile faltered. Her eyes hardened. "Mrs. Lois, this is what's best for you. Aaron only wants what's best for his mother." The words hit like the final stab to the heart. Lois let out a broken sob, tears spilling freely as she whispered, trembling. "You don't understand. Your best is burying a mother alive." Victoria's grip tightened on her shoulders. She leaned in, her tone suddenly low and sharp. "If you keep talking like that, I'll have to call the doctor. You need rest." Then she guided Lois back toward the bed, her touch gentle, her eyes glassy and cold. The door clicked shut behind her. Lois sat motionless, tears falling onto the white sheet, her despair deeper now than any physical pain. That night, Lois didn't sleep. She lay still, eyes wide open, staring at the blindingly white ceiling. In her mind, the same voices looped again and again, Victoria's and Aaron's. "Just sign. Transfer her out. That house will sell for a great price." Then a thought flickered through her mind, sharp, desperate. She needed proof. No one would believe the word of an old, sick woman, but if she could record the truth, maybe she could save herself. The next morning, while Victoria was out of the room, Lois quietly opened the drawer, Her old backup phone was there. No one knew she had a habit of keeping a spare phone tucked into an old coat pocket, just in case I forget the main one. It was the habit of a careful nurse, and now it was her only lifeline. She turned on the recorder and slid the phone beneath her pillow. That afternoon, Aaron arrived for the first time in months. The door opened. The sharp click of leather shoes echoed across the tile floor. "Mom." His voice was curt, flat. "Son." Lois's smile trembled, her eyes shining. "You came." Aaron didn't meet her gaze. He set a stack of papers on the table. "Mom, I need you to sign a few documents. Just routine stuff. I'm getting you into a better place." "What kind of documents?" "Discharge papers. Then we'll move you somewhere with full-time care." "Silver Haven?" Lois asked softly. He froze. "Who told you that?" "Victoria." The air between them turned heavy. Victoria glided into the room, silent as a shadow, pen in hand. "That's right," she said smoothly. "Everything's ready for you, Mrs. Lois." Lois glanced down at the stack. The bold title at the top read, "Property Power of Attorney." Her heart clenched. "I'm not signing anything." "Mom, don't be stubborn," Aaron snapped. "I'm helping you. You can't live alone forever. That house is just wearing you out." Lois met his eyes squarely. "You're going to sell it?" "I need capital." "You don't even live there anymore. Why let it go to waste?" The words tore through her like a blade, slicing through every last thread of love she'd held on to. Her body shook as tears spilled freely. "Aaron, you used to sleep on that floor. I covered you with a blanket the first winter after your father left. Have you forgotten?" Aaron turned away, avoiding her eyes. Victoria set the pen on the table, her voice cold and sharp as glass. "Sign it and rest. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Beneath the pillow, the recorder kept running, capturing every sound, every betrayal, every broken sob, and the exact moment a mother realized the love she had built her whole life around had just been murdered. As soon as Aaron and Victoria left, Lois pushed herself upright. Her hands trembled violently, but her mind was clear enough to reach under her pillow and check the phone. The red light was still blinking. The recording was complete. Her breath came fast and shallow, heart pounding against her ribs. She fumbled for the charger, plugged it into the socket beside the bed. She had to send it now, before they came back. She opened her contacts. The name appeared. Mr. Langston, attorney. He was the lawyer who'd helped her write her will years ago. Her frail fingers tapped send file. The screen spun. Uploading. 43%. 78%. Suddenly, the door burst open. "What are you doing?" Victoria's voice sliced through the air, sharp as a blade. Lois jumped, instinctively hiding the phone under her pillow. "I was just checking the time." "Give it to me." Victoria stepped closer, hand outstretched. "There's nothing." "I said, give it to me." The sweetness was gone from her voice. It cracked like breaking glass. Lois backed away, clutching the pillow tight. "I just wanted to call my son." "I am the one your son trusts," Victoria snapped. Her shout cut through the room, hard and metallic. Then Aaron appeared in the doorway. His eyes burned with irritation, cold, almost empty. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I haven't done anything wrong," Lois whispered, trembling. "I just won't sign that paper. That lie." "Lie?" He let out a bitter laugh. "You think I'm lying to you? You think everyone's out to get you? You're just making a fool of yourself." Tears welled in her eyes. "Son, just tell me the truth. You are selling my house, aren't you?" Silence. The answer was already there in the way he looked away. No words needed. Victoria lunged, yanking the pillow from Lois's grasp. The phone tumbled to the floor, skittering across the tiles until it stopped at the foot of the bed. She bent down to grab it, the screen still glowing. File sent successfully. Too late, Lois breathed, a weak smile trembling on her lips. It's all been sent. Victoria froze. Sent to who? To the one who'll make you both bow your heads. Aaron snatched the phone and slammed it to the floor crack. The screen shattered. The light died. What have you done, Mom? He shouted. I've protected what you forgot how to love, Lois said softly, voice shaking but firm. Our family. The room fell silent. Only the heart monitor kept beeping. Beep, beep, beep. Lois collapsed back onto the bed, breath ragged, blood seeping where the IV had torn loose. Victoria turned to Aaron, eyes wide with panic. You need to do something. If she really sent it, you're finished. Aaron bit his lip hard, a flash of fear cutting through his anger. And Lois. She just looked at them, tears glistening in her eyes, but behind them burned something fierce, the first spark of rebellion from a mother who finally refused to be silent. Blood still trickled from her wrist, bright red against the white sheets. Everything spun. The sounds around her warped and blurred. Voices echoed as though from behind thick glass. She's bleeding out! Call the doctor! Victoria's panicked scream. Hold her down! Aaron barked. They fumbled, terrified, angry. They hadn't meant to kill her, just silence her. But now, everything was slipping out of their control. The door burst open. Doctors and nurses flooded in, shoving them aside. Lois caught a fragment of shouting before her world went black. Her pressure's dropping. Get her to ICU. When she came to, the white light was back, cold and endless. Her wrist was bandaged, a new IV in place. The room reeked of antiseptic, sharp and sterile. But this time, she was alone. Aaron and Victoria were gone. Only the clock on the wall remained tick, tock, tick, steady, indifferent. The door opened again. A middle-aged man in a dark suit stepped inside. Mrs. Lois, I'm Langston, your attorney. I received the recording. Tears welled in her eyes. You got it? Yes, he said, nodding. Everything you captured is clear. The file's backed up safely. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Her trembling hand gripped his. Thank you. Thank God. Langston's voice softened. But you should know when this goes public. Your son will lose everything. Are you prepared for that? Lois was silent for a long time. Then she nodded. He already chose to lose his mother, Mr. Langston. That afternoon, the police arrived at the hospital. Aaron was taken in for questioning. Victoria had vanished. Along with the next morning, the hospital was silent. The faint smell of disinfectant lingered in the air. Lois sat upright in bed, the pale sunlight slanting across her face, tracing the deep lines that seemed sharper than ever. The door opened. Aaron stepped in, gaunt, disheveled, eyes red and hollow. Behind him stood 2 police officers and Mr. Langston. Mrs. Lois, one of the officers said. We just need confirmation. Is this the man in the recording? Lois nodded slowly. Yes, that's my son. Aaron froze. Mom, what are you doing? You're trying to destroy me? Lois looked at him, her smile faint, almost invisible. I'm not destroying you, Aaron. I'm telling the truth. The truth? His voice cracked, rising in anger. The truth is you never trusted me. You've always thought everyone was after your money, that everyone was bad. You still see me as that poor kid I used to be.
And you can't stand that I grew up, that I fought my way through life without you holding my hand. Lois stayed silent. Each word hit her like a whip, slicing deeper than the last. Fought your way? She said quietly. And you chose to fight by selling your own mother? Aaron's jaw clenched. I just wanted to make things easier. You're old, Mom. Don't you get it? You can't live alone forever. I needed money for my future. That house was the only thing left. What good does it do you now? What good? Lois let out a soft, trembling laugh.
That house is where your laughter lived, where I lit candles every time you were sick, where you took your first steps into this world, and you call it useless? The room thickened with silence. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Beep, 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 cutting through the still air. Langston cleared his throat. Mr. Aaron, the recording is more than enough evidence. If you cooperate, the court might show leniency. Aaron's voice hardened. Recording? So my own mother was spying on me? No, Lois whispered. I just recorded the moment you killed a mother's love. A single tear slid down her cheek. Aaron's head dropped. His lips trembled, but no words came. The officers moved closer, murmured something quietly, then guided him toward the door. Just before stepping out, he turned back. His eyes were a storm anger, fear, and a hollow kind of regret tangled together. Lois didn't look away. Her gaze was wet but steady, unflinching. My son, she said softly, I forgive you. But I will never forget. The door closed behind him with a sharp click, like the final snap of a string that had been pulled too tight for too long. Afternoon. The rain poured down in heavy sheets, each drop striking the window pane like the weary sigh of someone standing just outside. The hospital door opened again. No police this time. No lawyers. Just Aaron alone, hair disheveled, shirt soaked through, shoes caked in mud. He stood at the doorway for a long time. Lois looked up. In the dim gray light, their eyes met, one filled with guilt, the other with an ocean-long drained dry. Mom, he said hoarsely, voice breaking. I don't even know where to start. Start with the truth, Aaron, Lois replied, her voice low, steady. No more circling around it. He took a hesitant step closer. I really was going to sell the house, but I swear I never meant to leave you in that nursing home. Victoria said it would just be temporary, that she'd move you somewhere better later. I believed her. I was stupid. I thought I was helping you have a better life. Lois's gaze was calm, too calm. Her tone was ice. And the forged papers, the fake signature, the advance payment from the buyer? Aaron froze. I owed money. Victoria said if I signed everything, she'd cover my debts. I thought I could handle it. But by the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. He dropped his head onto the table, his hands trembling. I just wanted to get out of debt. I never thought it would hurt you like this. Lois closed her eyes. Tears fell silently, one by one. My son, she whispered, her voice shaking. Do you have any idea how much I've endured for you? I sold our home, my health, my youth, all of it just to raise you. I never asked for a thing. Only that you love me, only that you never turn me into a tool. I'm sorry, Aaron cried, his voice cracking wide open, the raw, broken sobs of a grown man. I was wrong. I lost control. Victoria used me. Mom, please, I'm sorry. Lois looked at him. There was no anger left, only a sorrow so deep it no longer had strength to burn. Sorry doesn't bring back the mother you killed inside, Aaron. But if you truly regret it, prove it. Go before the law. Tell them everything. He looked up at her, eyes red and glistening, truly seeing her, maybe for the first time. Mom, do you really want me to go to prison? I want you to be saved, she said quietly. Prison isn't as frightening as living a life built on lies. Outside, the rain kept falling relentless, cleansing. Thunder rolled, deep and heavy, echoing like the final note in the tragedy of a son devoured by his own ambition. Aaron lowered his head, shoulders shaking. And Lois sat there, frail, pale, worn thin by years, but in her clouded eyes burned a fragile, steadfast light. the light of a mother finally reclaiming herself. The day of the trial. The courtroom was cold, crowded, yet utterly silent. The morning light fell across Lois's face, pale but dignified. She sat at the witness stand, her frail hands clutching a worn wool scarf. Aaron was led in. His suit was wrinkled, his wrists cuffed, his eyes hollow. When he saw his mother, he froze, and in that instant, every layer of pride and defense crumbled. The defense attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client admits to forging his mother's signature in order to transfer property. However, the defendant was manipulated and exploited by a woman named Victoria Lane, who is now in hiding." The courtroom murmured. The name Victoria cut through the air like a knife, twisting the guilt inside Aaron's chest. When it was Lois's turn to speak, she rose slowly. Her voice trembled, but every word was clear. "I don't want to see my son behind bars, but I cannot let the truth be buried. I am his mother, and because of that, I must say this. My son lost his way, but he is not a monster. He just forgot that love cannot be traded for money." Aaron broke down. Tears streamed down his face, falling onto the collar of his rumpled shirt. He turned toward her. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'll take whatever punishment comes. Just please, don't hate me." Lois stepped forward just close enough to meet his eyes, those same eyes that had once been her whole world. "I don't hate you, Aaron. I never did. But you must face what you've done. That's the only way you'll ever be whole again." The room fell still. Only the sound of the judge's pen broke the silence. Click. The verdict was signed. As the officers led Aaron away, he turned one last time. His lips moved, but no sound came. Lois stood motionless, tears tracing down her face, not out of weakness, but release. She whispered softly, to no one but herself, "It's over. I haven't lost my son. I've only let go of the illusion of the boy he used to be." The courtroom doors closed with a final echo. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, thin and gentle, like a golden thread, and for the first time in months, Lois lifted her head, inhaled deeply, no longer afraid, no longer bound. Only peace remained, the quiet strength of a mother who had walked through the edge of grief and stepped into the light of her own resilience. After the trial, Lois left the hospital. She walked slowly, each step small but steady, her hands trembling slightly, yet her eyes, for the first time in years, were bright. The wind tugged gently at her silver hair, carrying away the days she had spent imprisoned by fear and tears. She rented a small room near the park. No more big house, no more comforts, but there was morning light, the smell of fresh pastries from the bakery down the street, and a silence she hadn't known in so long. Every morning, Lois brewed herself a cup of tea, opened the window, and let the sunlight rest on her rough, calloused hands. Hands that once shook from betrayal were now steady calm. On the table lay a new will. No more Aaron. No one listed as heir. In neat, slanted handwriting she wrote, "I, Lois Cole, leave all remaining assets to the Houston Orphan Support Fund." When she signed her name, her heart didn't ache. It felt light, like setting down a weight she had carried her entire life. Langston arrived later, carrying the finalized documents. "Are you certain about this?" he asked gently. "I am," Lois replied, her gaze distant but sure. "I used to think my son was the reason I kept living, but now I know peace is reason enough." The lawyer smiled faintly, nodding with quiet respect. "Most people don't find the strength to stand after a fall like yours." "I've fallen too many times already," Lois said softly. "Now I just want to stand once, for myself." She turned toward the window, watching the children playing in the sunlight. Their laughter rang through the air, bright, cleansing, washing the dust from her heart. And in that moment, Lois understood. She was no longer just a mother who had been betrayed. She was a woman who had finally saved herself. A month later, Lois received a letter. It was an invitation for a prison visit. Erin wanted to see her. She sat for a long time, holding the paper in her hands, not angry, not afraid, just silent, like someone listening to an old song they once knew by heart. The next morning, she went to the Houston Correctional Facility. The iron gate creaked open, slow and cold, the sound slicing through the air like metal on metal. An officer escorted her to the visiting room, thick with the smell of bleach and sweat. Erin walked in. He was thin, his face hollow, his hands pale and bony against the metal table. When he saw her, he whispered softly, "Mom." Lois sat down across from him. For several seconds, neither spoke. But the silence between them carried more than any words could. "I'm sorry," Erin said, his voice breaking. "Since the day I was arrested, I finally understood what you went through. I have no one now, Mom. Everyone's gone, except you in my mind." "And I," Lois said quietly, "once had only you, and because of that, I lost myself." He bowed his head, tears dripping onto the back of his hand. "I don't dare ask for forgiveness," he said hoarsely. "But if I could, I'd start over, just so you wouldn't have to feel ashamed of me." Lois looked at him for a long while. Her eyes were clouded with age, yet soft with clarity. "Erin, I don't hate you anymore. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiveness means I get to live on without letting you drag me back into the pit of our past." "Will you forget me then?" "No," she said gently, "but I won't let you define my life anymore." Erin broke down quietly, shoulders shaking. Lois placed her hand on the table, not touching his, just close enough, a fragile line between love and pain. "Live well, Erin. When you learn to love without hurting anyone, that's when I'll truly be at peace." The bell signaling the end of visiting hours rang. Erin stood, lips trembling, as if to speak. Finally, he managed only a whisper. "I love you, Mom." Lois watched him go, a calm smile touching her lips. "I know," she said softly, "and this time, I believe you." The iron door shut behind him, the echo long and low like the final note of a sorrowful song. But inside Lois's heart, there was no darkness left, only the faint, steady light of a faith reborn. The day Lois left the prison, the sky was impossibly clear. No wind, no rain, just a gentle sunlight spilling over her hair, coating it in a soft golden glow. She walked slowly down the road outside the gates, each step measured and steady, breathing deeply as if drawing the whole world back into her chest. In her hand was a thin envelope, a letter from Erin. The paper was wrinkled, the handwriting unsteady, but every line carried the weight of repentance. "Mom, I've started keeping a journal, trying to learn how to live honestly again. I miss the smell of your tea, the mornings when you woke up early to cook. If I ever get out, I won't go back to the old house. I'll start over somewhere new like you did." She folded the letter carefully and smiled. For the first time in years, that smile held no trace of tears. By afternoon, Lois stopped by the charity center she had donated her savings to. Children ran toward her, their little hands still streaked with paint, eyes bright with joy. "Miss Lois, you're here!" She laughed and took a small drawing from one of them, a picture of a silver-haired woman standing beneath a shining sun. "You're the strongest person," the girl said proudly. "That's you." Lois held the picture close, her heart swelling with a warmth she hadn't felt in a lifetime. No wealth, no title, yet she had never felt richer. She asked the center for a small desk in the corner office, a place where she could brew tea, write letters, and listen to old music. Every morning she wrote a few lines in her new journal. Day 1, freedom. Day 7. I laughed without needing a reason. Day 30. I'm no longer afraid to sign my own name. Each line, simple and steady, flowed like blood returning to her veins. That evening, as the sunlight tilted low, Lois looked out the window. In the distance, children ran hand in hand, their laughter echoing through the warm air. She whispered softly, her voice calm and sure. Thank you, life. No matter how cruel you've been, you still gave me the chance to begin again. She took a sip of tea and closed her eyes. No more Erin, no more Victoria, no more sterile white hospital walls. Only Lois remained the woman who had finally learned to rise from her own scars. Night fell over Houston, unusually still. Lois sat in her small room, the yellow glow of her desk lamp spilling across her open journal. Outside, a freight train wailed in the distance, a long, familiar sound, reminding her that life, somehow, kept going. She wrote her final line for the day. I have forgiven. I have come back to life, and I am no longer afraid. Setting down her pen, she rose to make another cup of tea. Then, beep, beep. Her phone vibrated on the desk. A new message, unknown number. On the screen, 2 short lines appeared. They're not done yet. V. Lois froze. Her heart jolted, her eyes darkened. V. Victoria? No, it couldn't be. The police had said she'd fled the state, disappeared without a trace after the warrant was issued. She opened her contacts, no name, no traceable area code. She couldn't call back. Outside, the wind rose, slapping against the window. The curtains whipped violently, the lamp flickered. Her shadow stretched across the wall, shaking, but unbroken. Lois took a slow breath, turned off the phone, and placed it gently on the table. She stared into the mirror before her, and what stared back was no longer the frightened woman she once knew, but someone tempered, sharp, unyielding. If you're still alive, she whispered, voice steady, then remember this, I'm not your victim anymore. A soft thud echoed from the hallway. Lois spun around. The window had blown open, scattering papers across the desk. One photograph had fallen from her notebook, a picture of her old house, the one Erin had tried to sell. In the background, faint and blurred, a shadow lingered near a window. Lois bent down, her pulse quickening. Beneath the photo, in uneven handwriting, someone had scrawled, "This place isn't closed yet." Her fingers tightened around the photo. She lifted her gaze to the darkened window. The night outside was black and cold, but in her eyes burned a small, fierce flame. Lois reached over and switched off the light. The room sank into darkness. Outside, the train's whistle rose again, long, low, and haunting, as if announcing that another journey was just beginning.